All right, we'll go on to this Q&A. Again, we'll go on to this Q&A. Question came up and comes up, I will say, frequently enough. And that is why, when it comes to determining if a person is Jewish, why do we go according to the mother, and not the father? And question also you could ask is, where does it mention the Torah? Right? Where do we know it from? Right? How do we know it? How do we know it, so to speak? So we hear from the book of Ezra, right? We'll get to the Torah in a second, but it's very clear. It's very clear from Ezra, right? One of the last prophets, right? Chapter 10, verses 2 to 3. Anyone can look it up. That tells the story. What is Ezra talking about? He's telling the story. Jews came back from Babylonia. And why did they come back? In order to rebuild the temple, right? Rebuild the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. And what do they find? Many Jews who inhabited the land had taken on Jewish wives. So Ezra, as we can probably understand, was heartbroken, upset. What did he do? He rent his garments, tore his garments in mourning, and he prayed to God. Large crowd gathers there. And this is what Ezra says. He says, and Shechaniah, son of Yechiel, son of Elam, says, raised his voice, said to Ezra, we betrayed our gods, we've taken foreign wives for the peoples of the land. There is still hope for Israel concerning this. So he says, now let us make a covenant with our God, expel these women, those have been born to them, according with the bidding, or the bidding, let's say better, bidding of the Lord, and all those concerned of the commandment of God, let the Torah be obeyed. Right? That is Ezra chapter 10, verses 2 and 3. Now it's just logically here, if a child is born of a Jewish father, and we say that the child will be Jewish, then Shechaniah over here suggests expulsion of the children born to these women. So how could it be that Ezra would agree? Why would he agree? Because obviously, Jewish people historically attached to their kids, right? Attached to their family. How can he agree to send them away? So obviously, we have to say, through one answer here, and that is that these children were Jewish. And also he says Shechaniah over there, he says, let the Torah be obeyed. Yeah, what's he talking about? What is he referencing? So everyone understood this is not, he's making it up on the fly. He's doing whatever he wants. It's called an obedience to Torah. Yeah, an obedience to Torah to keep what it says. Now, Ezra, you could ask, okay, Ezra, one of the last books, certainly the Hebrew Bible, right, in Tanakh. So an obvious question would be, why do I need Ezra, of all people, come and tell me that I need matrilineal descent? Why did Moses not say it? Why is it not in the Torah? Right? In other words, if Torah goes into great detail, right, laws and customs doesn't tell me why per se, right? Most of the mitzvahs just God tells Moses, give it over, and that's it, but it doesn't give any details. So now that would be a question, right? But obviously not such a question. Why? Because there are many things. You have, priestly rites, offerings, things in the tabernacle, so to speak. Those are great detail, right? Or the most common ones, are given no specifics at all, right? Give an example. Torah says that you got to rest on the seventh day, right? Book of Exodus, chapter 20, right? You got to rest on the seventh day. You don't do any work. No definitions. What is rest? Does that mean I just sleep all day? What's the definition of work? physical exertion or productivity or, I don't know, maybe work is something you just, something not enjoyable, something you don't like to do. Now, even though there are, little details here and there, it'll say, the Torah says, don't burn a fire in your dwellings, right? You're not allowed to, light a match, light a fire. You're not allowed to move from their place, i.e., you're not allowed to carry, right? Okay, there are some details, right? Few details. Moshe Rabbeinu himself is told, slaughter an animal as I commanded you. Very good. Where's the command? How are we supposed to do it? Text doesn't tell us. So we could ask the question, why are there details that are there and details not? Right? Very simple. There are some things that go into great detail. Some things go into no detail. Now, it could be, one possible answer is you're going to get a certain amount of details, right, that are easily forgotten. Right? Maybe it's only necessary to commit those details that you might forget. Right? Or those things that we're familiar with, we understand, right? And they're going to be passed down, let's say, organically or however it's supposed to be passed down. But the bottom line is, you'll tell me that there is no explicit verse that tells me that what parent makes a person Jewish. Right? It doesn't tell me. Seemingly the Torah doesn't say. So, we do have rabbinic tradition that is true. And the Gemara tells us that Rav Shimon Bar Yochai has support over here, that matrilineal descent, right, that a child born to a Jewish mother is Jewish. What's the passage? The verse in Deuteronomy. Right? But seemingly you would need other information, because the passage alone may be not enough. Right? Because again, let's go back. According to Ezra, it was a long-standing tradition that Jewishness is received from the mother. Very clear. Now, it had to be no such thing that the prophet's going to come along and say something that wasn't referenced in the Torah. Right? Very rare, doesn't really exist. Where do you see that? The prophet's going to come up with something not based in the Torah. So, comes along Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, and he says, I got a hint over here. Right? I got an illusion. What's the illusion? What's the illusion over here? Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 4. What does the Torah tell me? The people that are about to enter the land, the Torah says, do not intermarry with them. Don't give your daughters to a son. You shall not take a daughter for your son. Why? Because he's going to take you away. He's going to take you away from God, from following God. And they'll worship the gods of others. And the wrath of God will be kindled against you, and it'll quickly destroy you. Right? That is the verse. Right? That is the verse. Now, right, that's verses 3 and 4, chapter 7. Right? Very good. Now, if you look at what the verse actually says, what does the verse tell me? God is warning the people to what? Not intermarry. God's telling people don't intermarry with the people of the land. Yeah? Neither their sons nor their daughters. Okay, so you tell me still, we're still not getting clear-cut information. Is it after the father, after the mother? Now, what would you expect next? What would the obvious thing be next? He will turn your daughter away from me, or she'll turn your son away from me. Right? But that's not what the Torah says. Right? That's not what it says. What does God say? He will turn your son from following me. Who is that son? Right? The Torah doesn't tell me. Who is the he that is turning the son away? Now, I got two possibilities. Two possible interpretations here. But each one's not really going to matter, because each one you get the same conclusion. Right? What's the same conclusion here? So I got one possibility It's speaking to the son of your daughter that's going to go astray. Now, grandsons are often called sons, right, in the Torah. She is the one mentioned the first of the verse, who was taken by a non-Jewish man, i.e., the he that's turning the grandson away. That grandson is still considered who? Your son, right? Still considered your son. So therefore, what do I see? That the child of a Jewish woman, even when the father is not Jewish, is Jewish, right? That's one. That is one possibility, right? That is one possibility. Now, what's the second possibility? Is that he's speaking of your son. Who is your son? The one who took a non-Jewish woman. So the he that's turning him away is who? Is a non-Jewish father-in-law. He's the one turning him away. Why? What did he do wrong? What did the non-Jewish father-in-law do wrong? The person married out of the Jewish people. So it says your son has been turned away from God. Why has your son been turned away from God? Because his children will not be Jewish. Yeah, same conclusion. Two different ways of looking at it. Same conclusion. The child of a Jewish mother and a non-Jewish father is Jewish. Now the Gemara might say maybe he's a bastard child, it's either a mamzer, maybe he's puzzled, he's blemished, but bottom line, Jewish. The kid is Jewish. Now, is it possible, let's ask the question here, right? We'll just flush this out. Is it possible to read these? Are there any other interpretations? Can I read it any other way? Right? And seemingly what Reb Shimon says, no one contradicts. Right? It's not a contradiction here. Right? Now, that is pretty amazing because, everyone will say, come on. Usually, there's an opinion brought in, and then someone's going to say, nope, not true. I got a different thing over here. I got something else over there. Right? Here, very interesting. Nobody says anything. Quiet. He made a statement, no one disagrees. Now, in almost any other thing, this is very rare. Very rare when the Gemara makes a statement and no one disagrees. It happens. It's rare. Very, very rare. In this case, this is one case. Right? So therefore, matrilineal descent or lineage, what do I see clear as day? One opinion, universally accepted, and that's it. Now, you have to accept the fact that, as Ezra says, this was the law, and no one disagreed. Right? That was the understanding. That was the understanding of all Jews. That was the law. Now, you can ask also, while we're on this topic, and we'll come back to this, but you can always ask, what about Moses' wife? Yeah? We see many figures, in the Torah itself, seem to be married out. Joseph marries an Egyptian woman. Moses marries a Midianite. Right? King David takes a Philistine wife. King Solomon took wives not from the Jewish people. And people are going to say, see, no conversion. Where's the conversion? Right? If you don't say there was some level of conversion, you got a problem. Right? We got a major problem here. We got major players here. In the history of the Jewish people, seemingly married out. You don't see the Jewish people, getting chastised for it. You don't see them getting chastised for it. So they had to be Jewish. How are they Jewish? Right? Good question. Right? So, the most important factor here is you don't see God saying, how could you do this? How could you marry non-Jewish women? If it would be forbidden, God would have understood. God would say, God spoke to Moses saying, don't do this or don't do that. Right? Or he came to a prophet. And the prophet's going to say, right, what they did was wrong. You don't see that. So, for Joseph and Moses, right, Moshe Rabbeinu, what can I say? Very easy. Before the Torah is given. Before the Torah is given, then apply. Very good. But you want to tell me they kept the Torah before it was given? Okay, but let's say that's an easy answer. Given before the Torah. So therefore, marrying out, not a problem. Certainly not a problem. Oh, but you're going to say, what about King David and Solomon? Right? Shlomo Melech, King Solomon himself. That doesn't work because they were around after the Torah was given. Also, you got the story of Pinchas and this Midianite woman. We know that what did Pinchas do? Shish kebab them. Right? He killed them. Right? Cosby Batsur. Right? Killed them. Killed them. So you see, that was forbidden. Right? So what do you do with King Solomon and King David? But again, no conversion, seemingly going against what the Torah says. Where's the outrage? You'd expect automatic outrage. Right? Now, you could say, well, if I look at the text, I'm reading way too much in. Maybe. Or you're telling me, listen, isn't conversion obvious? There had to be conversion. How can they marry non-Jewish women? And the Torah says nothing. No admonition, no condemnation, right? Zero. So what would have to be done? A woman would have had to go to the mikveh, right? Say not going to, do idolatry, right, and other things, and make a covenant. Make some sort of covenant between her and God in front of three Jews, right, for a proper conversion. Man's going to require circumcision, right? Very good. So what do I need? You need a mikveh, ritual immersion, you need circumcision, you got to bring sacrifice. You can't do that today, right? Bring sacrifice, right? If someone converts. That was common. Not only was it common, it was taken for granted. Now, you could ask, okay, even if that's true, there are other things taken for granted. Pretty clear. You're not supposed to steal. Or you're not supposed to kill. But the Torah tells me, don't steal, don't kill. So again, certain things were mentioned, certain things not mentioned. You got Olam Haba. Olam Haba not mentioned, next world. That's not mentioned. Resurrection of the dead not mentioned directly. Right? Either it's hinted, but it's not mentioned, directly. Right? So those are two possible two possible answers. Now, even so, as we said before, the Torah makes statements, doesn't tell me why, doesn't give any explanation. Just tells me, do this, don't do that, whatever. Yeah. Now, what could I say over here? What possibly could I say? I could say, well, who is the child? Just go the road. Who is the child more connected to, biologically? The mother or the father? So you tell me, okay, what does the father provide? He provides half the chromosomes. True. But it's not just about chromosomes, not just about what the parent provides over here. The embryo is in the mother's womb, develops for 9 months, nurtured by food going in the bloodstream, right? Affected by her emotions, by sounds of the ears, or she hears, or whatever. All kinds of things depending on the mother, right? Certainly not the father, right? Then the baby's born, and there's nurturing, in many ways, physically, psychologically, etc. So a woman, in general, is more caring and is more capable of providing than a man, right? By nature. Now, does that mean a man can't be trained? No, right? But a woman has more things inherent in her than a guy does, right? When it comes to raising kids and taking care of kids in general, right? Now, who is the dominant one in the identity of the child? Now, you could say, well, why'd you say it's the mother? the father has tremendous influence also, right? So the idea is that, as we said, the more nurturing and all these things, more come from the mother, right, than the father. Another possible reason we could throw out there, a very simple reason, would be that, you know who the mother is. Not always easy to find who the father is. Now, I can say today it's a lot easier. You can check DNA, right? It's usually 99.9% accurate. I take a blood test, whatever. Very good. But not clear, right? The mother, you know who it is. That's clear. The father, not so clear, right? Now, if that is true, what we said up until this point, then why would we change it? Why would we change the law and say that we're going to accept patrilineal descent? Now, the Reform movement's done that. The Conservative movement's done that, which we don't really care either way, but it makes more people, according to them, Jewish because their movements are dying out, right? Now, each person has its own identity. Is, you're going to tell someone, let's say, they're a Jew, so to speak, if they really are. You're going to tell a person, yeah, they're Jewish. Now, is that a crime? Not a crime against the mother or the child, right? If we're going to say the mother's more attached to the child, then to say, no, we're going to change that, and we're going to say, really, the father's closer. We're going to change the identity. It's another way of looking at it. It's like you're telling the child he's got the wrong identity. Not that he's the wrong, in the wrong body. We're not talking about that, right? Wrong gender. We're not talking about that. Where does identity come from? If father can have a very positive, strong influence, that's true, right? That doesn't negate the fact. But where does the identity essentially come from? Is through the mother, right? So to raise a child, right, you have to have compassion, got to be inclusive, all kinds of things, right? So in such a case, it would make more sense. It would make more sense to go after the mother, right, than the father. Now, that's one idea. Now there are other things. Just going to throw this out there. That there are other things that are patrilineal that go after the father, right? The tribes go after the father. A Kohen, in order to be a Kohen, is only if his father was a Kohen. Now, how does the person know if they're a Kohen? Levi Yisrael, go by the father. How does the father know? Because his father told him. How does his father know? Because his father told him. Not usually something that's lost. Right? We don't know which tribe we're from. Nobody knows which tribe they're from unless they're a Kohen or a Levite. They come from the tribe of Levi. Very good. So those things we know. Those things are, I would say, are more, external, right? You got tribes, you have inheritance, all kinds of things, right? Now, you could ask the question, okay, even though that be true, what's the difference between determining whether you're a Jew or whether you're a Kohen? Well, who cares? Why don't you use the same criteria? What's the difference? Because we're talking about here secondary identity. It's not a question of who you are, but what you're supposed to be, who you're expected to be. A Kohen has to be careful about what he eats, where he goes, how he behaves, what his job is in the temple, right? He has to know what he's doing. He has to be careful in many ways. Now, a child's going to learn that later, but who's going to learn it from? Not going to learn it from the mother. It's going to learn it from the father, right? So to a Levi, right? What does a Levi do? He sings, right? Sings in the temple, guards the gates, has other duties, right, etc. So that also is going to be brought down to the father. So the primary, so that again, secondary identity. So where does the primary identity come from? From the mother. But where's the secondary identity come from? It's all about what I'm supposed to do, what my role is. Who's that going to come from? It's going to come from the father, because the father is obligated to educate, provide a role model for the child, right? He's got an obligation to educate the child. Now, if the child can't, the father can't, you pay someone. You get someone else. You get someone else. You get someone else to do it, right? So that pretty much, answers that. Now, one other thing I want to mention. I'll see if there are any questions here. One thing is, okay, so even if you say by the father, you're gonna say the father's not Jewish, very good, right? So let's say a person got married, want to convert, they get divorced, right? Whatever reason they get divorced, they get divorced. Very good. Now, the mother wants the child to be a Jew. Okay. Father has no interest. Father has no interest. Now, the child, for for argument's sake, the child themselves, they're not Jewish, right? The mother's not Jewish. Okay. Now, if that is the case, if you tell me there's joint custody and the child lives by the mother and the mother going to send the kid to a Jewish school if they'll accept him and whatever, very good. Because the majority of times by the mother. Now, what happens when the child goes to the father? There have to be guidelines. What the father could do, not do, right? But, there are guidelines. There should be guidelines, right? Not so simple, right? But there should be guidelines. Because the father could mess things up here. Could totally mess things up, or the mother, either way, it doesn't matter, right? However the situation is, doesn't matter. Either one could mess it up because they don't want the child to go in that way. So the base is going to have to determine, how the child's really being educated and what's really going on. So it's not so simple. Not so simple. But let's say the child, the custody, the one parent that got custody does not want the child to convert. And they're the ones that have custody. Doesn't matter why. They're the ones that have custody. Now, the other spouse is going to go to Beis Din and say they want to convert. Okay, they meet the criteria. Very good. They say, my son's also, my child, son, daughter, whatever, they're also interested in conversion. Very good. Where do they live? They live by my ex. Yeah. Okay. Is your ex interested in educating them in a Jewish way? No. Is he interested they should be converted? No. Now, the fact that the father's not Jewish, well, both of them are not Jewish, doesn't matter, right? But the fact that the father's not Jewish doesn't matter. That's not the point, right? Whether he's Jewish or not, right? Because even if he would be Jewish, we just pointed out you go after the mother, not the father. So the father has no say whether the child's Jewish or not, right? That doesn't matter. But if whoever the child is living with, does not want the child to convert, and they're the ones that they're living by, they basically won't convert them. Now, that's not rocket science. Very easy to understand why. Because, if that child comes in front of Beis Din, let's say, that child, whatever, gets older, once comes in front of Beis Din, wants to convert, so child, they're going to ask him all kinds of questions. Why want to convert? What's the environment you're living in? Where you living? Say, I'm by, father, my mother, whatever. Okay, very good. Is it conducive to conversion? Are they interested that you should convert by the parent you live by? And what's the child going to say? No. They don't want me to keep kosher. They don't want me to keep Shabbos. They make it hard for me to do anything. Now, the Beis Din, it can rip their heart out. They can say, well, this child really should be Jewish. Child's got a lot of potential. It's good for them, whatever, but they're in the wrong environment. They're in an environment they can't succeed. They're in an environment it's impossible to succeed, and they're not living by the other parent. Now, the other parent might have visitation rights or whatever, but they're not living by the parent that wants to convert. Now, what happens? So what happens now? What is the Beis Din going to do? Now, you can say it's cruelty, this, that. What is the Beis Din going to do? The Beis Din's going to say you can't convert. This person's not a candidate for conversion, no matter how learned they may be, what level their knowledge is. They don't have to wait it to be mean or cruel. But they're living in environments not conducive to Torah. Now, if they're over 18, they live out of the house, they're living on their own, different issue. If they're living in a hostile environment, in an environment they cannot succeed, impossible for them to convert. Impossible. That's not a question of what's fair or not. That's not the issue. The issue is a very practical issue. And that is what environment you're living in. Yeah. You even have, let's say, by two secular Jewish parents. And a child's, becoming religious, whatever. The child's got to get out of that environment somehow. Or somehow stick it out. I don't know. However it's going to be. Right? It's going to be a problem. So in that sense, it's easier because they're already Jewish. Okay. Right? In that sense, it's easier. Very good. In this case, you got a major problem. Major problem you can't fix. You cannot fix it. And the reason is because whoever the child's living with, they're the ones calling the shots. And that parent can make it really hard for this child to do anything, Jewishly. The other parent can be jumping up and down, and this is what's best for him, and this child is learning, and this and that. The parent can say, who cares? Not my problem. Kid wants to do it, not on my watch. I'm not going to allow it. So, what is Beis Din going to say? They're not a candidate for conversion. That's exactly what Beis Din is going to say. Because the child's living in that environment. Now, from a practical perspective, why would we think Beis Din would look the other way? And they would say, no, we're going to convert them anyway. Why? Why would they do that? They have huge responsibility converting them. But they're in a hostile environment. If they're in a hostile environment, they're not going to be able to keep what they need to keep. In a Jewish school, it's not necessarily going to take them either, even if they would before conversion. Because this is not going to work. What they're learning in school, quote unquote, this lifestyle is not going to be perpetuated by the parents. Even if the other parent wants and tries and this and that, they don't have custody. Right? Now, even if they, let's say there'd be joint custody. We'll make it very easy. The one parent that wants to convert, they have joint custody. Very good. Very good. Now, they're the ones that want to convert. They're raising the child to go in the right path. Beautiful. The other spouse is against. Okay. Now, how's Beis Din going to look at this? How are they going to analyze the situation? Beis Din most likely will say, there's the guidelines, boundaries, or whatever. But the majority of time, the child is by the parent that wants to convert. So that's good. So that's very good. The fact the other one doesn't want them to convert, okay. But since they're in the house of the parent that wants to convert, that's much better. I think Beis Din probably want to set up boundaries and other things, whatever they can do. But that's a much better situation. That's easier to understand and say, yeah, why not? Child might get mixed messages from, the other parent, but they're getting, strong reinforcement where they live and from school. and from their environment. Very good. So that should help. The other way around, the child doesn't have a prayer. It's impossible. Not the child's fault. Right? Child's just a pawn over here in certain ways, but it's not the child's fault. The way the parent wants to raise it in order for a conversion, yeah, they're going to have problems from the other spouse. Yeah, they probably will. But they have to explain to the child what you're allowed to do, not allowed to do. Yeah, in different things. As long as they're clear-cut boundaries, then Basin should write off on it. It should say, even though it's not a great situation, okay. They'll let it go, all things being equal. But if it's the other way around, why in the world would Basin do it? Doesn't make sense logically they would do it. Because the child's on the right environment. It has to be a benefit for the child to convert. If the child's in this environment, they're stuck. It causes other problems, as well. Resenting the parent who's in charge of them or whatever. It results in other problems. Okay. But it's not a benefit for them. The Beis Din wants to see it's a benefit for them. So if it's a legitimate benefit, good. Then they'll convert them. All things being equal. If it's not good for them, then that situation has to change somehow. And if that situation doesn't change, they're not going to write off on it. They will not convert them. They won't do it. And it makes perfect sense why. It's not about money. It's not about politics. Not about anything else. It's a very practical reason. And the reason is because the kid's not going in the right direction. Or he's going to have difficulty, let's say. He's going to have a tremendous amount of difficulty going in the right direction. Because the parent has a lot of influence. They can just stop it. Say, nope, you're not going there. Nope, you're not doing it. They can stop them. Till the child gets older. It's a different issue. Child's younger. They're under the watch of the parent. So it's not about discrimination. It's not about Basin doesn't want to help. Basin would love to help in the situation. But what's Basin supposed to do when they have two hands tied behind their back? The parent that's in charge doesn't want. And that's the most important thing. So how's the kid going to convert that way? Can't. It's tragic. I would agree. 100%. 100%. It's tragic. But what should they do? Basin got a huge responsibility here. A huge responsibility. So based on that, to go back to patrilineal descent, the other so-called Jewish movements, will allow people of, if their father's Jewish, good enough. Right? Good enough. Now, what's their main issue? Obviously, is that they're losing people. Because they can't pass it down to the next generation. So synagogues are dying. They're all dying. Right? All these synagogues are dying. So therefore, they want to be most inclusive. And therefore, they'll allow patrilineal descent. Because they want more people in their congregation. It's not based on Torah. No one ever said it was. Externally, yeah. Plenty of things we said. Right? That are based on the Father. But it makes sense logically why you would say you have to go after the mother. Someone asks, is it easier? Is conversion easier for a grown-up non-Jewish child of a Jewish parent? If they are grown up, it depends. It depends on the relationship with the parent. Some parent, I'll ask like this: what about a secular Jew who becomes an Orthodox Jew? The same issue, similar issue, right? Even though they're Jewish, and now they come back to Judaism, how do the parents react? So it depends what the parents are holding. Some embrace it, some think it's a great thing. Some people don't want to have anything to do with it and make the person feel like a pariah. A friend of mine, I went to, I knew from Boston, and we're in college together. And, basically when he became religious, it's just him and I think he's got another sister. When he became religious, his parents cut him off. Totally cut him off financially.
That's how open-minded they were. Father passed away years later and never met his wife and his kids. The mother eventually did, but his father didn't. So it depends on the parents. And again, I would say most people would not have a problem with this family-wise, whether Jews or non-Jews, except, maybe non-Jews are Bible thumpers. Okay, they'll have other issues. But where does the problem lie? The problem lies you reject their values. That's where the problem lies. But even with that, a lot of people won't have a problem necessarily. Even with that, why not? Or why would they have an issue? They have an issue when it's inconvenient. When it's inconvenient for them, then then they squawk. Then they open their mouth. Because it bothers them. You can't go out to eat with us, you can't do this. You come for a meal, you bring your own pots and you this and whatever. It's inconvenient. Which, I mentioned the story before. I told somebody, I said, all you have to do is admit you don't like to be inconvenienced. Don't tell me, Webster's 8th definition, 5th definition, I think it means this, and, the Jews ate same, I don't know, hallucinogenic mushroom in the desert and all this. No, just tell me you don't want to be inconvenienced. It's an inconvenience. Just tell me. So finally, after, long period of time, person admitted it. I said, okay. They said, you happy I admitted it? I said, yeah. Just be honest. Don't give me bogus answers. Be honest. You don't want to be inconvenienced. Once a person is inconvenienced, it bothers them. I told people, if you go visit family for Thanksgiving, you don't eat the food, you bring your own food. That could cause problems. Right? That's the big test. Food. Food always the big test. You go somewhere, everyone's eating all this stuff, you're eating a peanut butter jelly sandwich. Yeah, whatever. Bothers them. Oh, you're not even Jewish yet. What, you can't eat my food? If I breathe on it, it means it's not kosher. Like, food's a big thing. Can't eat my food anymore. Bad enough you won't go to this place or do that or whatever. You won't eat my food? Food's a big thing. Food's a big test. Number of people told me this. Yeah, they went to some family functions, brought their own food, and got hammered. Got hammered because people don't want to feel that. Yeah, they don't want to be inconvenienced. I was somewhere once. I was like, well, can't you eat anything? What about this? What about that? I was like, listen, I ate before. It's fine. Got some chocolate, got some other things. I'm good. I'm not asking people to go out of their way. You want to go out of your way. Very good. You don't want to go out of your way. I'm not holding it against anyone. But they feel bad. Okay. So if you don't want to feel bad, get me something, coach. You don't want to. Okay. I'm not, I don't have any claims. I don't have any claims either way. Yeah. But in your case, is it easier if they're older and they want to convert? If you want to convert, that's, for a Jewish parent. Now, it depends where the Jewish parent is holding. The Jewish parent could be, an anti-Semite also, be self-hating Jew. If they're not self-hating Jews, very good. So they may say it's a good thing. They may not say it's a good thing, right? It depends. It depends on the parent. I think in the long run, and people told me this, and I never believed it till it happened. That they said, you'll get a lot less flack for anything once you have kids. Once you have kids, that'll make a major difference. I'm like, what could be the difference? What's the simple difference? They're going to dote on your kids. They're not going to think about anything else. So now they have grandkids or great grandkids. Yeah, that was a major change. Major. Because everything gets deflected to your kids. The good they do, the bad they do, right? Everything in between. It's all about them. Not about you. Right? Because grandkids can never do anything wrong. Or kids can always do things wrong. Could you eat their vegetarian food? Depends. Very much depends. If it's raw, probably less of a problem. Unless they had, let's say, what's it called? They cut things that were sharp. But if their utensils aren't kosher, which is probably the case, and they had utensils used within 24 hours, even if it's dairy, even if it's vegetables and stuff like that, that might all be kosher. Very good. What if you had a pot that was used within 24 hours? Meat pot. They cook up vegetables used within 24 hours. Yeah, treif. So that means whatever's cooked in that pot, you can't eat. So that, the kashrus would be a major issue, but there's another issue. The other issue is bugs, which is the worst issue. Because there could be bugs they never checked, right? They never checked. You eat a whole bug, 5 or 6 prohibitions in one shot. But that's also a problem. The worst problem. But you tell me maybe it's less of a problem because even if there were bugs there, they're not a whole bug. They're cut up. Okay, true. So they can be nullified. It's nullification, right? Won't get gross here, but there's nullification. Good, right? So maybe that takes away the problem, but it doesn't take away the kashrus problem, right? Don't take if you tell me, the pots weren't used within 24 hours, and all the utensils they used with it weren't used within 24 hours, less of a problem, right? Less of a problem. Bugs, you tell me, less of a problem. Okay. Yeah, but it's going to be very easy to find. It's going to be very easy to find problems. Very easy. And even if that wasn't used within 24 hours, what if they took a knife, a non-kosher knife that wasn't used within 24 hours, they cut up an onion, right? An onion sharp. So now that means that onion's now tray from that knife. Yeah, and then it trace up everything that's cooked with. All the other vegetarian things, I don't know, if tuna, vegetables, whatever's in there, whole thing is tray, right? That's a problem. That'll also be a problem. I mean, I could be here for the next hour going through other problems, but those are the main problems. Those would be the main problems. So those you don't get out of, right? One of those is going to be an issue, for sure. Going to be an issue, right? People would say, "Come on, what could be wrong with this? What could be wrong with this?" Yeah, they serve vegetable platter. So let's say there's no problem, anything sharp or whatever. Bugs will be a problem. No one checks for bugs. Who in the secular world checks for bugs? They serve lettuce. Yeah, Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. Open up a head of lettuce. Right? You gotta check it leaf by leaf. Because a lot of times there are bugs inside. Nothing, come on. So someone said, a friend of mine did this, did this experiment. Someone had a head of lettuce. Someone had a head of lettuce. He goes, come on, there are no bugs in this. Opened it up. Sure enough, there were bugs there. There are things that are more buggy than other things. Okay. Right? They're certainly not checking for bugs. No, anybody growing up, anyone checked for bugs in anything? Could be in the States a lot, it's a lot better, it's a lot cleaner in different ways. We have less issue with bugs, than we have here in certain things. I was in the States one year. My wife had normal checks for rice for bugs, right? In the States, you don't really have to check because rice is relatively clean. So they don't really have to check. She checked anyway because that's what she normally does. She found bugs. She found bugs in rice. Now, you don't normally have to check, right? Find one bug, okay. You find more than one bug, you find 3 bugs, you got to throw the whole thing out. So it's, it must be an old package, must be this. There are bugs. That's why you have to check. I mean, certain things are in order to be clean, so you don't have to worry. But, things that are, they have to check. You have to check. And people say, I never eat bugs. Not true. Of course, they eat seafood, they're eating bugs. There's no question about that. Right? I get bugs and all these things. And who knows whatever these seafood things that, people eat, there are bugs in them. Gotta be bugs in them. And they ain't checking them. Guarantee. They are not checking them. People have to eat shrimp. Shrimp is like what do you call it? It's a cockroach of the ocean. But nobody cares because it tastes good. Yeah. Again, you got things inside of these things that is, worms. You probably got plenty of worms in there. You'd have to check for. Who checks for these things? Who checks for these things? You talk about all the chemicals and stuff that, trying to get out of American cereals and, and other things. Okay. Right? It's one thing, but people are eating bugs. I don't think there's any question. People like raw cauliflower, raw, broccoli. Forget it. It's infested. Totally infested. Now there are what you can check it. It's very hard. Very, very hard. Or figs. People, some people like to eat figs. Very good. What's the problem with eating figs? Also infested. Well, what's the big problem? The worm looks exactly like the fruit itself. Again, I'm not saying it's impossible to check, very, very hard. But things that are known to be infested, forget it. It's not worth it. 5 or 6 prohibitions in one shot, which is 10 times worse than eating pig. And people think eating pig is the worst. Not true. Right? Person ate a whole bug, you get 4, 5, or 6 prohibitions in one shot. In one shot. Eat pig, it's one. You say, oh, but look what a pig represents, and then forget it. What a question what it represents. It's one thing that's forbidden. You eat it, it's one prohibition. The person eats a whole bug, it's 4, 5, or 6 prohibitions. So what's worse? It's a 1-to-6 ratio, right? It's 86 or 88%, worse, right? It's a terrible thing, right? So it's 84%, sorry, 84.44% greater transgression than eating pig. Potentially. If it's 6 prohibitions, right? It's only 5, it's only 80%. Okay. So that's an 80% worse thing than eating pig. Now I get it, what the pig represents and all that, very good. Yeah, a matter. I'm talking about something very practical here. You eat pig, however much you eat of it, doesn't matter, right? A Jew eats it, one prohibition. One prohibition. You eat a full bug, 5 or 6 in one shot. Worse. It's either an 80% worse or 84%, right? Or 84% worse. That's pretty bad, right? 100%, that's bad. Who are the royal Jews? We are. That was easy. Yeah. Any other questions? Good to see the trolls are back. Yeah. So yeah, as we said before, like someone asked about eating vegetarian food. Yeah, that's one of the issues. Besides being treif, potentially treif, is eating bugs. Right? And again, people say I never eat bugs. People say it. Food is clean, the food is cooked. People say we don't keep kosher because of tapeworms, right? Because of trichinosis. We heat things up and this and that. The whole thing's a crock. Someone told me that and I was eating a bagel. I'm like, come on, you're eating a bagel. What does that do with trichinosis? They don't meat in it. Yeah, I know people make these arguments that no rhyme or reason for anything. That is the single biggest thing facing Jewish people today, right? Probably most of the world in general, and that is ignorance, total ignorance. And I just saw earlier I had to watch it because it's incredulous to me how stupid people can be without knowing the facts and without getting into politics. The whole thing about that Trump signed in all this money that Israel's going to get, and the weapons that they're going to get and whatever. And people are saying because we're going to use it to kill Palestinians, and 60,000 Palestinians have been killed, and and why should we give it? Look at all the genocide they've committed, and all this time. Like I had to watch it just solidify the arguments of how stupid these people look. And say this, they perpetuate the same lies. We always say, the more you say over the same lie, people are going to believe it. So they keep saying over the same thing over and over again. It's got no realm or reality in it. In reality, it's nothing. Absolutely zero. I saw someone put up a post last week. And it's very good. The thing about the Palestinian people. So put on their I don't know, social media posts, whatever. And they said the Ottoman Empire from I don't know, 1500s to the 1800s or whatever. And then you get the British. So we're the Palestinians. I don't know. They're claiming that the Ottomans took their land. One of the 3 biggest lies in the history of man. I've spoken about it before, but it's just uncanny. Absolutely uncanny. It depends on your definition, right? It depends on the context. What context? What context? Yeah. I was having a whole discussion with somebody. Somebody well known, and just could answer a very simple question. Are you happy Israel got this? And you're not happy. Couldn't answer the question directly. They go into other things, go around, like, skirted the issue. Very good. What does that show? They want to answer. Good. But that is the single biggest problem today is ignorance. Total ignorance. That's what the Jewish people face. If you're not attached to the Torah, you disappear, right? Chovos says, I brought this on my podcast the other day, right, on BJQ Radio. I brought that out, that Chovos says, if you're not, going against your, evil inclination, you're not fighting, you're not fighting against the ills of society, meaning you're sticking to Torah mitzvahs, right? You're going to be ignorant. You're going to be ignorant of Torah. You will be ignorant of Torah if you're not. Or he said you'll be ignorant of religion. Okay. You don't have any spirituality because the body and the world around you is like totally going to destroy you. Totally going to destroy you. So you got most people today don't know the Aleph Beis about anything. They sound like big experts. They talk a big game. They know nothing. They know nothing. And it's just mind-boggling, as people, people scream out, I've said this many times, from the river to the sea. Okay, tell me which river. And tell me which sea. Tell me what exactly you're talking about. Which land do we steal? We came in the 1900s. We bought the land legally. Who did we steal it from? It was bought legally. Who was it stolen from? What about all that stolen land by the Brits? What about the Ottomans for 300 years? What about all their stolen land? Where did it all go? Where's all the evidence? Yeah. If it's in print, people will buy it. It'll make sense because they're perpetuating the same lie, but where's the evidence? And if you want to tell me, the same stat everyone keeps saying, 40,000 people killed, 60,000 people killed in Gaza. Let's say it's true. Wasn't, first of all, a terrorist, but okay, let's even say it's true. We'll give the benefit of the doubt. Let's say it's true. If they're hiding behind, if they're using human shields, then that's it. It's their own fault. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Mind-boggling. Right? Mind-boggling, think about it. But anyway, it's not that's not the point. Is that it's where people get their information from. And they get the information from the wrong source. Or from the wrong, sources. They keep saying the same thing over and over again, which again is perpetuating the lie. Right? Which is exactly what it does. So, someone could say, come on, you're really surprised? No. I'm not really surprised, but at the same time, I was like, I just have to hear it. I just have to, just let me hear, just see. And very confident. They sound very strong, and they're out of their minds. They are out of their minds. Like, oh, depends where you get your sources from. It's clear-cut sources. This is not something you can make up. Something you can doctor, right? If you have 400 or 500 years of history, before the Jews were given the state, right, 1948, and there's no mention of them anywhere about, land being taken, places being shut down, put in concentration camps, murder, there's nothing. There's nothing. And they keep making the same claim with all this confidence. So people don't care, right? People don't care. That's what they do. It's all propaganda, right? And the media sucks it up. Well, that's what they do. So when it points out, remove them all, right? Great idea, right? Got to get out the real news, right? But it's pretty amazing. If you think about it, that I used to show people, students from Hebrew University, how to properly read a newspaper. Yeah, just how to look at the information, what they're saying, and what's true, what's not true, or what they're not saying. It's how to, analyze knowing the facts. And they were like shocked. They're, if you know about history, and you know Torah, it's not that hard to do. It's not that hard to do at all. Actually, it's very easy to do, right? But if you say, oh, that's your opinion, you want to look at the sources, you look at the right sources, right? You look at the right sources. Yeah, and war is never an example because a lot of people die in war. Okay, right? But like, people make the claim like we're invading, we're invading Gaza. Why did they go into Gaza in the first place? What happened on October 7th? Oh yeah, I forgot about that. They don't have a right to destroy them. Well, how are they going to get them out? How are they going to kill them? They don't go in there. They don't have a choice. They didn't want to do it. They lost a lot of soldiers for it, but they didn't want to do it. The whole place is booby trap. A lot of it. They didn't make that choice. Peaceful resistance, this, that. Yeah. So, we shouldn't be shocked. It's not shocking, it just reinforces the idea why we have to stick to Torah. Right? That's what it does. It reinforces the idea that the whole rest of the world is cracked. Totally 100% cracked. I came to this conclusion in my early 20s. That's what got to me to where I am. Because I said either I'm cracked, and I need to see a psychologist, which I might have to anyway, right? Or the whole rest of the world is cracked. Doesn't make sense. So many things didn't make sense. I went to yeshiva for 1 week, answered like so many questions. So many questions in one shot. I'm like, oh, that's the answer? Really? I was like, really? I was shocked. Absolutely shocked. That's why we say a little bit of Torah pushes away a lot of darkness. We have an evil inclination, doesn't matter. But, someone say, well, doesn't the truth get out? The ones who want to see it. Right? The Gemara says, if you want to go in the right direction, God will help you. If you don't want to go in the right direction, God won't stop you. You have a choice. You want to see the truth or not? Plenty of ways not to see the truth. Plenty. And a lot of people tap into it. Okay. So I have so many problems. So many image problems. Because the truth is just, throwing in this whole rant about everything's being run by the Jews. Netanyahu's going to America. He's going to put Trump in a corner, going to get all this money, right? So, so we can be involved in a war that we shouldn't have been in. We shouldn't have gone in there, right? We shouldn't have, invaded and done all this and all that. And I was like, you got to be off your cotton picking head. This is the classic what the anti-Semites say. Classic. We're running the world. We're in control. Look at all the things that Trump did at the very beginning. All pro-Israel, right? They gave him so much money, so he's got to pay him back. Like all these things. Now, some of it might be true. It doesn't matter. But like totally twisted. Absolutely twisted. Yeah. But you see, if a person really wants to see the right thing, they'll see it. If they don't want to see it, they'll be blind as a bat. And that's most of the world. That 100%, is most of the world. They don't want to see it. They're not interested in seeing it. And, and that's the end result. It makes everything look bad. Right. But you got to know what the truth is. That God's going to come to you, after 120 years when a person dies. They'll see the truth if they get there. They'll see what the truth is. They say, how could I have been so misled? Whatever, it's a whole other topic, but it's so easy to be misled. So easy. Look at all the Christians, all misled. Right? All brainwashed, all these other religions. But whatever you see, even someone, is not religious or whatever, but you see what they say. There's more than one gender. Where do you see more than one gender? They all become from a religious perspective. I don't know. I wasn't so religious growing up. There were two genders. That was it. I didn't grow up so long ago. There were only two genders. Yeah, you gay people, you lesbians, whatever. You don't have these other binary, who knows what else things. Two genders. Finished. I don't know, going back to that. What a good thing. That's a crazy thing. But people get sucked into what's going on around them. And that's the negative effect it has can have on a person with evil inclination. Right? It makes the person think about things you don't need to think about. There aren't even issues, really. Not even issues. Because the person loses focus. Right? You got to keep your eye on the ball. You can't lose focus. You got to be determined. If you're not determined, these other things creep in and you get lost. It's very easy to get lost. Very easy. And it's very easy to get sidetracked. And then you start asking questions, you got to know where to get the answers from. Well, then someone says, oh, wow, it's an interesting question. Could be. A lot of very interesting questions out there. Okay. But you have to have the right perspective, see it to, see what it is. right? If you look at this case we just brought up, a patrilineal descent. Yeah. From the time of Ezra, it was known clear as day that the mother is the one that determines whether the child's Jewish. Okay, so he's saying, why didn't the Torah bring it out? This is not very good. But as he says, they kept, this is what the Torah law is. He's talking 1,000 years later, or 800 years later, whatever it was. So that was clear. But where do they get changing it? New modern invention. Don't discriminate against men. Right? We don't discriminate against men. So they'll say it's okay. We'll go according to them. But it was a known thing. It didn't change. For the last 250, 300 years, everyone was Orthodox. So what changed? What happened with the Reform movement? They rebelled. Good. Conservative movement also rebelled. They didn't start out that way. So what happens? Well, Rebbe says that, rabbis didn't have, certain powers taken from them. So then it was just like a free-for-all. So I'll give you one example. In Panama, there's basically no intermarriage. Why is there no intermarriage in Panama? Because the rabbi who was rabbi there for 50 years more, ran it like an iron fist. Like, you're intermarried, you're out. We don't accept. That's it. Out. Ran it like an iron fist. That's what you gotta do. You don't make compromises. You don't change. You don't change things. That's it. Torah is what it is. You don't like it? Okay, but that's the way it is. And that's why there are no problems. There are no problems with intermarriage because they don't allow it. Right? You ran it like an iron fist. That's it. That's what you got to do. Because otherwise, you compromise here, and we know. We know what the end. We know what the end result is. Yeah. It's interesting. One other thing I'll mention, Rabbi Kahana, Hashem Yikam Damo, God should avenge his blood. He said that in the 70s. The only way you're going to solve, this Arab issue is you put them on buses and send them out of the country. That's it. Because they're going to be a pain in our sides till the end of days. But Trump has a great idea. Send them to, what do you call it? To Jordan. Send them to Egypt. Let them take some of them. Let, others take, nobody wants them. Right? Everyone's rejected it out of hand. Okay. But, but that's the only way you're not going to have problems for them. Every country that has Muslims in them has problems. Right? Except for one, Japan. They don't allow them in. The only place. So, someone pointed out that what Trump wants to do, which man, it's going to happen, but what he wants to do is echoed by Rabbi Meir Kahana, 50 years ago. 50 years ago. So, he's a racist, he's this, he's that. Say whatever you want, but, they're the biggest problem in this country. Right? That's where the violence and everything comes from. It stems from them. I'm not saying you can't have Jewish violence. You can't, but, and if something's stolen, it's usually them. Usually. I'm not going to say always. Someone's murdered this thing. Yeah, you can have gang warfare, you can have mafia, other things. Even in Israel, good. Religious communities don't have. Right? So we don't have that. So who the enemy is. Clear who the enemy is. But it's always going to be a problem. Always going to be a problem. So if they would have listened to Rabbi Kahana, yeah, they would get a lot of flack, tons of flack for it. They would have done it anyway, but got unbelievable, amounts of flack. But if you live in the Middle East, you know what goes on. That's the only answer. That is the only answer. Because, they've indoctrinated, the next generations. So if anyone saw any videos of these hostages coming out, I mean, look at the people that were there. Thousands of people came. These are the ones that they're, of course, obviously, indoctrinating, but hey, saw in their face, terrified. Thousands of people, they wanting your blood. So when the dust settles, who are you gonna make peace with? Come on. Who are the moderates? There aren't any moderates. But people don't understand. Some people get it. Anyway, yeah. Any other yeah. All right. Any other questions? Don't ask the blacks are the real Jews? All right, we're not, we're not gonna answer that. Right? Because we know where that's going. Yeah, any other questions? Well, it's gonna must be doing a good job. Trolls are back. Yeah, any other questions? Because I always tell people, you want to be the real deal? Like you look like me or you disappear. So who are the real Jews? With a tan, without a tan, doesn't matter, right? As long as you keep it what you need to do, that's all that matters. Yeah, any other questions? All right, I'm gonna stop here. I do this every Tuesday and Thursday, 10 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock Israel time. Anyone has any questions, feel free. Shoot me an email, or if you're you can find me on Facebook at Chaim Koppen, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, orthodoxconversion.com, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism on YouTube. There I got videos on Q&As at our fathers. Book of Leviticus, you want to send me an email, rabbichaimkoffen@gmail.com, RBBICHAIMCOFFMAN at gmail.com, which I'm good. Beginning of the day, middle of the day, or almost end of the day, depending where you are.